A very good afternoon, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the inaugural edition of the Voice for Bharat 20 Summit Transforming Voice Together, organized by the Internet and Mobile Association of India and Chingari Audio. I'm your host for the session, Shri Raj Deshmukh from IAMI. Welcome to the panel discussion on emerging voice and audio technology trends in marketing. We would like to thank our partners, presenting partner Chingari Audio, brought to you by partner Gupshup, Platinum partner Whirlpool, Gold partners Agri Technologies and Reverie Language Technologies, and Knowledge partner PwC. Without any further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Gopal Menon, Head of Digital South Asia at Mindshare. Joining us today, we have a distinguished set of leaders. Please welcome Mr. Or Chaltier, Head of Partnerships and Customer Success at Trinity Audio, Mr. Alex Serdiuk, CEO at Respeecher, Ms. Dimpi Yadav, General Manager at Saxis India, and last but not the least, Mr. Samir Mehta, Senior Vice President at Geo. I would request all the delegates to please keep posting their towards the end of the session. I would request Mr. Menon to please take it over from here and kickstart the session.
Thank you, Sriraj. Good afternoon, all. We do have a distinguished lineup of speakers in the panel to discuss and share their views on emerging voice technology trends and which is emerging in marketing. I'm keen to probe them to know how they are helping brands to meet their business marketing objectives through voice and audio tech. I'm also looking forward to hear their views on the subject in terms of how we are able to actually evangelize the voice and audio tech solutions. Before I start, just to put a context to the overall discussion that we're going to have this afternoon, it's very while it's very difficult to actually predict future trends, it can sometimes be a challenge also. However, if you look at the audio technology scene, it's actually growing rapidly. It's really amazing in terms of how the on demand, how this entire space has become on demand and personalized as well. We are now seeing greater amount of usage of AI and ML in the voice ad tech solution as well. While all of the consumption story is going up and all the consumers are actually embracing this technology with open hands, we're seeing that brands are taking baby steps in the direction, both from a spend perspective, also from an adoption perspective. So again, I'm keen to understand with this panel in terms of how to decode this better, how can we actually enable brands to actually embrace audio tech going forward. So thank you guys and good afternoon all. My first question, which is open for all panelists, and or if you could just go start first, do you think as voice tech for brand or audio tech for brand, we've started embracing audio tech in India as well as well? You can also give us the global perspective too. And what are your observation and how it has evolved?
Hey, Gupa, thank you. And very glad to attend this panel today and answer and share our experience and knowledge with audio. So, generally speaking, audio is there and is getting more and more popular by the day. The pandemic had a very good boost to audio and made it more relevant for brands, for publishers, for the end users. And we are seeing it, everywhere with rise of smart speakers, podcasts, audiobooks, headphones. All of the trends of these are going up. For example, in US alone, we can see that there are more than 100 million monthly podcast listeners. And if we are taking it specifically on India geo, then I can tell you as an overall insight, we're seeing that India is the third largest country when it comes to podcast consumption with 57 million monthly users. And from Trinity Audio perspective, me as the person that is in charge of the Indian market, I can tell you that we are seeing the year-over-year growth with the market. So if I'll take you back to 2020, when we only started to onboard partners from India, then if I'll take a quick look at the data that we had, then since 2020, we are seeing a very good growth in India, and it's coming with player loads. So just for the sake of the example, in 2020, we served around 150 million impressions in India. Last year, we already passed the 1 billion mark of impression. And this year alone, only during this period, we already passed the 1 billion impression. So the growth is there. And we can also see it by the important KPIs that we have, which are the click rate on the player, which is improving year by year, and the duration of users that are spending time listening to audio. So giving all that, we can see that the audio trend or audio consumption is only going up, and it's still very far from fulfilling the entire potential.
Great, or I think it's encouraging, and obviously, looking at numbers that you actually just talked about, it seems that obviously the demand and consumption is definitely there. Alex, your observations in terms of how this is evolving and how you see this moving?
Yeah, I mean, in general, we see that the amount of content that being produced worldwide is increasing over the last 5 years, and increase is going exponentially. And that means few things. More content is being created elsewhere, not in the places where it used to be created, like Hollywood or Bollywood. More content needs to be localized, translated, voiceovered. More content is being created using synthetic media, including synthetic voice. But industry has a delay. It used to work in the processes, it used to work for quite a while, for like 70, 80 years. So voiceover, that would be our expertise, has not been changed much. So people are still tied to the voice they own. And now, given that trends in terms of increasing of amount of content that's being produced, there is an urge of using technologies to optimize different processes. Some processes we used to do for quite a while in a similar way. And when we think about synthetic media, synthetic audio, we should think also about the cases when we finally can detach a human from their voice. And usage of that technologies just started. So we just scratching surface here. And it's hard to predict where it would go, but it would be obvious that industry standards in terms of how we do content would be changed significantly. And we already see some early indicators of that trend.
Great, Alex. Dimpy, to you, you bring the agency expertise on this panel. Just want to hear your thoughts in terms of how you see this evolving and what your observations are on audio tech solutions.
Sure, sure. Gupa, first of all, thank you for raising such a great question as the opener and starter. And I would say that I can't agree more with Alex and Or, but yes, definitely when I want to add an agency perspective towards it or how Indian clients and market is basically, looking at it, I would say that India as a market is something that had started its media on a very traditional footnote, especially when it comes to voice, where we had radio ads, right? So yes, for our clients to look at audio was a very much game changer. It was very new concept for them. I'll say this goes back to 2019 when all they could understand was radio. And how they looked at this was an incremental reach perspective that this is what we're thinking of, the way they see digital display or video ads parallel to television. Similarly, they looked at something which should replicate even radio and should provide an incremental reach. And then we came up with audio ads. But yes, when we talk about audio tech, which is where entire game changes for us because then audio advertising becomes much more evolved for you. It brings a lot of experiences for an advertiser, which is definitely then coming around measurements and a lot of ROI. And I think that is where the entire game changing element to audio ads sits in because audio ads are very much measurable. When you talk about any kind of creative concepts, it plays a bigger role there and can easily be done. So yes, in today's world, I would say that audio advertisement, though, which was maybe initially seen something as to drive as an incremental reach, is now seen as a standalone channel, which does not have any limitation only to provide your reach, but goes beyond. It goes beyond only just activation of audiences, but also goes to different creative concepts, which are very custom to than audio. The way or mentioned about a lot of podcasts coming up. So along with podcast, it also comes up with a lot of opportunities of integrations, which is where content plays a bigger role. So I would say that audio in itself has now become a channel where in itself you can see all around all the pillars, which is content integration, which is creative aspects around it, which is audience activation, which is then how measurement tells you that what kind of ROI can audio ads be driving for you. Where we also have entire advertising technology, which is further empowering audio as a channel. So now for advertisers, I would say that yes, the vision has changed. Their perspective towards audio ads has definitely changed a lot. It is not only seen as a parallel driver driving additional reach, but a standalone channel itself, which is taken as a core digital aspect and a very important pillar.
Great. Thanks, Dimpy. Samir, for your opening views, again,
Yeah,
coming.
so honestly, I still believe we have not yet realized the value of currently available voice text in India. Mostly, it has been one way, like in case of radio or podcast or any content. But there is a lot of development that has happened in voice tech in last few years, especially on the NLP side, supporting multiple languages, and I believe the value of voice tech truly comes when it becomes an interactive session between a consumer and a brand. That's where we have been lacking behind, right? People love to talk and being talked back. And so I believe voice as a medium has a great potential when it comes to creating engaging experiences. And that's where I believe the brands have been lagging behind. I think they are increasingly adopting their marketing spends on this. So I believe that the voice scene is yet to evolve to its full potential in marketing context. And I see more new age brands spending more on this. So I am very keen to see how this engagement side of things, aside from the content side, evolves.
Great. Coming from Geo again, Samir, pertinent point in terms of you saying that obviously brands not embracing it to the extent that one can be, and obviously the potential is huge. So again, would obviously probe you more when further in this conversation. Um, uh, or the next question to you would be again in terms of any successful audio tech solution. The backbone of this would be AI and ML experience, or obviously merger of data and tech. And again, I'm assuming that this is very true for the audio tech and voice tech solutions as well. How can you? What's your observation in terms of how data and tech enablement is happening on the audio tech platforms, and how are we actually working on that parameters?
So,
So, sorry, was that for me?
Yes, or and then Samir, you can
okay,
actually.
sure.
Okay. Sorry, Samir. So obviously we think that data, is a huge part of the activity, and without data, you cannot grow and you cannot improve your products and your technology. And I think it comes hand to hand. It has to be a very part of the product that you're offering. I think that in Trinity, without the precious data that we are collecting all of these years, it would be very hard for us, to find these very important insights that help us understand, the audience. Because as my fellow friends has mentioned here, there are many ways to audio on how you can engage with your audience, where you can engage with your audience, what kind of message you can create for them. And we want to have the understanding or to be able to create those insights according to each specific channel within this audio landscape. So, when we work with any partner, we have an entire dashboard that shows him the data that he has with his products. If it's the engagement data that we are creating, if it's the monetization data that we want to provide for him, if it's the content that is creating via audio, what type of content create the best engagement with his audience, so he can go ahead and develop it. And it's part of our everyday operation. It's part of, as I said, the insights that we provide ourselves and our partners. It's part of the data. It's part of the A/B test that we create with our publishers and advertisers to understand how we increase performance. So I think that it's a big part of the activity and the operation that you are managing. And without it, it will be very hard move forward.
Great. Or Samir, if you would want to actually again add to
Yeah,
this,
sure.
looking at this from a geo perspective.
Yeah, so I'll tell you. See, I don't think in current age, anybody, be it marketer or anybody else, can survive without going into data analytics. Okay, and I believe it is important that any campaign that we launch, and especially in the voice case, there are a lot of nuances which are specific to voice, right? Especially in Indian context where there are so many languages, right? So a lot of time in voice, the analytics related to the languages becomes critical. And especially as far as the tech is concerned, we are pretty much in good shape. At least we have tested with the current speech to text engines and text to speech engines. They are pretty much doing well when it comes to larger spoken languages, and that's what I think from a marketing perspective we are pretty much ready as far as tech is concerned. Now what is required is a smart use of these capabilities, these AI, ML or NLP capabilities, and to launch campaigns and to measure them. And that's where I think things are evolving. I believe we have been creating interesting concepts in marketing space. For example, we have been investing in this space for a while now. For example, at GeoEngage, we have built a DIY platform called EVA, Engage Virtual Assistant. It allows anybody to create AI-based conversational engagement. And then we have, as earlier spoken, we have got various means to measure them in terms of languages. We classify unanswered questions. We classify languages. We identify where the drop-offs are happening. So there are nuances, especially when it comes to languages in voice tech, and we have solved it in our own way. But I think voice has its own challenges as compared to other mediums in measuring the ROIs.
Okay. Alex, again, your thought in terms of how you're using both AI and ML, and obviously bridging the data story in your platform or your solution that you are actually giving to your clients.
Yeah, those are very good points Samir mentioned, like smart usage of the technology and language models limitations. So in our case, we are not like a data-driven business, right? Our goal from the very beginning was to create synthetic speech that would be on the level of quality where it would go through picky sound engineers in Hollywood studios. So we wanted to be the first who would be able to create a speech that's indistinguishable from natural original recording. And therefore, we have chosen a bit different path than most of the companies in synthetic audio space are executing on, and that would be speech-to-speech on contrary to text-to-speech. And we should understand that there are two approaches to generate speech, and difference is in input. Text-to-speech is the most popular and extremely scalable one, but it has holistic limitations. And one of those holistic limitations would be limitation to language models, to languages, to vocabularies. And that's huge for India because of the amount of languages you have in one country. While speech-to-speech is not relying on any language models. And that means that the thing that's being cloned, that's being reproduced, is vocal timbre. And Respeecher's goal has been to reproduce the vocal timbre as accurate as possible, so you wouldn't be able to tell whether it's that person just recorded themselves in the studio in front of microphone or someone else recorded that, but they applied technology to copy the voice, copy the target voice on top of the performer. And there are some technologies like ours that can enable cross-lingual singing, voice conversion, and all that kind of stuff that does not meet limitations in terms of language models when you synthesize speech, but it does have inevitable limitations of being in need to use humans to produce the speech. So that's something we should always consider when we think about how to apply technology for particular campaigns. And smart application is very important thing, because now we all should understand that technologies like synthetic audio gave us abilities to do something we have never been able to do. So for example, one of the projects we did back in 2021 was for Super Bowl opening, and NFL, Digital Domain, 72 and Sunny, Respeecher, we all grouped together to recreate a person, Vince Lombardi, a famous American football coach who passed away quite a while ago, like 20 or 25 years ago. And this particular implementation of several technologies of synthetic media gave it 2.1 billion impressions. That would be a huge number for ad campaign. Similar stuff happened with Cadbury campaign in India. So it also was quite massive. And the agencies, they used several different synthetic media technologies to make the project happen. So it's all about focusing on the cases where leverage is the most. When we talk about scalability, that's one thing. When we talk about creative approaches, that's another thing. And the best we can get when we unite two things: creative approach and scalability. So that's a challenge we will go through over the next couple of years, and then we would see the technologies merging in full, and that would be exciting.
Great. And again, I'm privy to both the campaigns that you talked about, Alex, both the Super Bowl ad as well as the Mondelez Cadbury's ad. Absolutely love it. So again, great work. Dimpy, again, you are actually reaching out, and your brands clients do come out and reach out to you. What do you feel are the roadblocks or apprehensions for brands when they are investing into this audio tech voice solution? That's one. And the second question, the lead up to that, is what will change to change that mindset for them to start embracing audio tech, in your case programmatic ad tech, audio tech solutions, wholeheartedly or more, in that sense? What steps needs to be taken?
Right. Gopa, I think you're right because, yes, advertisers do have a little of apprehensions even today. I would say more than apprehensions is again a lack of awareness that we as an industry needs to create a lot more around it. So when you still talk about audio, there goes a underlying this concern that okay, how much measurement can be addressed and can be done compared to other medium channels, other channels like display, video, etc. What we have in the system. But the thing is that when we talk about our advertisers, for them, see, especially in these times, post pandemic, every single penny counts. So the kind of budget that you're putting in, our advertisers seek the maximum ROI that you gain from it. Yes, there are a lot of, I'll say, safe sides to it too, especially being programmatic or technology driving the show for us now. We know that we have a lot of control, especially when it comes to the bigger problem that this industry had earlier, which was brand safety is totally under control, especially when I talk about audio as a channel. So we know where the ads are being served, where the impressions are being served, what kind of clicks are we getting, engagement are we getting from it. But yes, now if as a team of experts together we come up with different solutions which can help address these clients the problems that they have, I think it's game on. So for any advertiser, when we talk about their campaigns, definitely it falls back to the advertising funnels itself, which is then, are you trying to build awareness? Are you trying to, get performance out of it? And then what and how? Now, the thing is, advertisers have this, I'll say, I may call it a myth that, okay, audio only works for branding campaigns, which is something that we need to decode because channels are not mapped as per the funnels anymore. It's not that okay, audio only addresses your branding solutions, which is around awareness or driving impressions and reach. But yes, it goes beyond. It's just that I would say that even it depends what kind of campaign are you doing. Are you doing a top funnel campaign to drive more awareness, or are you doing a bottom funnel campaign to drive maybe consideration or have brand loyalty, etc. But the thing is, same channel can bring best performances for both. It's just that how do you adopt towards it? So when you go for maybe a branding kind of a campaign, you need to see that yes, a lot of a mass campaign needs to be done, or what kind of audiences would you want to activate. A broader reach is what you're focusing at. Why versus when you're going for a bottom funnel, a lot of creative element can take over the show. Then AIML can actually take the larger context here. It can ensure that ads are talking back to you. So as Samir rightly mentioned that as humans we love to talk and we love it, we love the fact that yes, we are heard. So, and when we talk about advertising, if the same action and emotion can be reflected in advertising, we do see a lot of better ROIs also being driven in. Also, another factor which I would just want to quote here is that there's a lot of generational shift also happening in audio. The way that when one generation stepped in, we moved from a traditional way to very much digitalized world, where yes, then clicks then took over the reach as well, engagement and many more parameters came in, which was post view click, etc. But now when we talk about the younger generation, kids these days, I've hardly seen anybody typing anything on a laptop or a phone. All they just do is a voice, right? They're just talking to Alexas of the world or even the phones. We can look back in our houses. Kids don't use keypads anymore. So it's a generational switch altogether. They have missed the clicks as an action. They have missed keypad as an action. So if the younger generation is coming up on a voice so heavily, I think that is where the future lies. So the voice is not just on audio but goes beyond, which is on all channels for you, right? So which is where even audio ad to start with, if the ad is not just one way passing a message, but a two-way which is talking back to you, using NLPs and many other AI companies are out there at a global level, stitching this entire suit together for you. So it's just that programmatically you have to bring this all to action, where you understand that okay, I'm gonna have my inventory from one partner, which will be the source where my ads will be running. But I need to have an AI partner also to enable, this two-way conversation for me. Then you need to have a DSP and SSP partners also to become the bridge for it for this entire strategy that you're building on. So it's just that you have to very strategically understand that what kind of elements you want to activate, at which kind of funnel. And yes, bang on, you're there. But yes, if you're thinking that without ROI, we can just activate the channel, I think this is not the times that we're sitting in. And it is a mandate. But high potential is when you understand that branding campaign may have an ROI, but to a different metric versus a performance campaign or versus a bottom funnel campaign. So even for a branding campaign, definitely you can activate your audio ads with AI and ML, where user talks back to the ad. So for an example, which is what we had done at Pizza Hut, at Zaxxas already a year ago, where the ad, it was a test campaign, but really worked successfully and very well. The ad was talking back to a user, right? So, and since the user, I mean, for them, it's exciting. You don't have to click anymore, so you end up talking. So the user said that yes, I want to place an order. So it was a conversion. And even if the user said that no, I don't want to place an order, then ad could again go back to the user in the evening and say, how about now? Right? If the user another again denies, then at least you have an audience base who did not engage with your ad or who upfrontly said no. And then you can understand more about their profiles, their audience profile behaviors, to understand that why are they not converting with my brand. Am I doing something wrong, maybe in my element or maybe in my offerings? So I think there's a lot that you can get back, especially when voice technology is coming into picture, because it takes you more closer to your audiences. And I think as at the end we all are humans, so that technology is just making brands come more close to the audiences, to understand them better, to understand what kind of needs do they have. And then of course higher engagement is what you get out, what you're going to get out of it.
Great. Thank you. Again, very detailed input with regards to how brands can start embracing this. Again, totally with you in terms of how I also believe that the next generation will just skip the type thing and will move to voice, and that's where the scale will happen, and brands need to embrace it now. The second thing is also what you put across in terms of ROI, which is important, and I will come to the measurement aspect in the following questions. But yes, I think that's also one important aspect for brands to consider. And again, good work on Pizza Hut. Again, absolutely love that campaign as well. Or you would want to talk about any use cases that you would have used audio tech to impact brands and the overall business outcomes as well?
Sure. So I think that, we have our, let's call it average partner, which will usually be publishers. In India, we work with the ABP, India Today, Jaguar New Media, etc. But I think that a bigger impact that we have, and we're seeing this trend now, is that more and more corporate companies such as PwC or Nissan, the automobile company, or law firms are using audio today to increase more engagement and productivity with their content by creating audio for their blogs, converting their blogs into audio, creating white papers, researchers, and ebooks via audio. And I think, that, for example, I'll take PwC as an example again. I think that the fact that a financial service provider started to create its content via audio to better allow its user to interact with it has a very big impact on how the audio will evolve in the industry, because it's not the average user, the end user that is coming to a news website to listen to a news article. It's a whole operation of a global company that is creating the content that is important for them to be heard by their audience via audio. And it's not only creating this content via audio, it's also the distribution of this content and allowing your audience to meet with your content in different places rather than your app or your website. It's distributing this content to creating an audio newsletter, which is a new feature that we have just developed, and it's pushing your content into Spotify and having a designated place on your website that user can come in and directly consume audio content, some sort of an audio portal for your users. So I think that this example of corporated companies and also brands that are started to engage with audio, such as a campaign that we had with Tuning, which they are promoting content via audio, which is amazing because they're creating audio content themselves, are great examples on how we impact the audio industry and having more and more different types of content creators join into the party.
Great. Thank you. Samir, any examples that you'd want to talk about which actually across your platform and how you used voice and audio tech?
So we have been very early adopters. If you look at MyJio today, there is a feature hidden in it called Hello Geo, right? It is pretty evolved, if I may say, compared to what I've seen anywhere else. What it does is it basically allows users to interact with Geo as if you're talking to a contact center agent, right? And you talk to it and you say, what is my balance, and goes and fetches your balance and tells us this is your balance. For example, you are having network problem, right? It goes and debug what is wrong, right? And it tells you, yes, you need to restart your phone, correct? So we have been experimenting it for last 4 years now. In addition to that, we built a very great tool for marketeers, actually. It's called Eva. What we did was, essentially, we created a video bot. So basically you record once and it renders video as well as audio, right? So essentially you call up a phone number, or you are in the app and you're pressing a button and you're talking to it, or you are just video calling a particular number, right? In either cases, what happens is it results in an engaging experience. So for example, I could ask, how are you today? And let's say a brand ambassador is, let's say, Shah Rukh Khan or any other star. He would respond, yes, I am fine. How are you doing today? Right? So it's a very interactive kind of experience which we create out of video or audio, So Eva has been there for a while. We've done a number of bots for marketeers. We are now coming up with a telephony experience, which is beyond an app. So you don't need an app to experience this voice interactivity. You call a phone number and you ask your question, or you greet it and it greets you back, and it's a whole engaging experience. And I think voice tech has evolved to a point where the interactions are becoming more and more human, if you may. It's at some point of time, I believe in a year or so, we will be at a stage where, and it is evolving fast, where it'll be very difficult to distinguish between a bot and a human being on the other side, right? And there's a graceful pass over to a human being. So let's say I'm not able to answer, then obviously, okay, hold on, I'm giving it to my supervisor. And then, it's going to be great. I believe in next year or so, we'll be in a space where a lot of companies are going to launch this technology out there. And it's going to be very meaningful for brands to spend in this tool.
Great. Alex, any examples on or any work that you're doing on synthetic voice and beyond that you would want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess we can expand a bit on this Shah Rukh Khan project because it's quite descriptive. So the thing is, we see the trend that marketing in general and ads are in need and going into having more granularity in how we build our target audiences. And that gets to extreme level. We want to have separate ads for a single consumer, for a single user. And when we talk about millions of users, we want to create very different separated ads that would be personal to any one of those millions of consumers. And what audio technologies allow, they allow to do that. So they allow to scale someone who has at most 24/7 availability, whose time is extremely valuable and expensive, to be able to deliver something that exceeds their physical abilities very, very much. And now we talk about how we can scale voice to whatever extent we want to scale. And when we think about interaction with a brand ambassador, with a celebrity, this interaction can go on the very, very granular level to be on the level of a single consumer. And when we think about call center that can speak with the voice of Shah Rukh Khan, that's also something that technologies of synthetic audio are already doing. So it's possible. And now it's all about getting this new concept in our heads in terms of understand how we can apply it and start applying it and seeing results.
Great. We're almost coming to an end, but I need two more questions in. So just moving pretty fast, Dimpy. One, the ROI aspect. How are you looking at how brands should start looking at ROI on audio tech? And the larger question again to Samir, Alex as well, in terms of how can we drive better CTA through audio tech? So Dimpy first, and then.
Yeah. So, Gupa, I would say that even brands should look at when we talk about especially measurement and ROI from their media funnel. So, if they're looking at it from a branding perspective, then clearly reach or visibility or how or completion rate is something that you need to focus on. If you go down the funnel, then yes, you can understand that okay, what kind of conversions am I getting in? Now, conversion could not be only about leads coming in directly or selling your car from audio because of course that's not going to happen. But understanding that what kind of action can a user take bases my product from an audio channel, which could be, so for an example, if it's a pizza, yes, even an action for a user saying no is an action because it's not about conversion did not happen, but engagement happened, right? So even that no is an action happening, and that is yes a good and high ROI. But while for a brand which is onto automobile, then you need to understand that you cannot just talk about selling a car, but could be a test drive, right? Now, even again, even no is an action for a test drive, and yes is also an action. So understanding that at the end, because when we talk about selling a product, many stages come into picture, which is not just audio or digital driving the show for you, but also the salesman, also the product quality, then the experience, which is face to face with the product. So I would say basis different categories the brands fall into, and the product that they're going to go for, or the kind of campaign objective do they have. If it's a new launch of a product in the campaign, then totally different aspect becomes to it. All you really want is just a better share of voice, or if it's a brand recall campaign happening, or if it's actually a sale campaign happening for a retail brand, etc. So I would say for a different brand, the different kind of campaign that they are coming in with, you need to pick up your objectives in tandem to the ROI. So, and that clarity needs to happen. So if you know that my objective of this campaign is to launch my product, then that is it. That's where your ROI should map. You should not never think that, okay, if it's a display campaign or audio campaign, I want leads, because then it's going in a very different direction. So I would
Yeah.
say that it's a very simple fundamental. Just match your KPI and your ROI, go back to your campaign objective. And that's where the answer lies. Secondly, is definitely when you talk about audio, we need to understand that what kind of complexity are we going into, or what kind of, I'll say, detailed campaign are we crafting. So, for example, if it's again about driving more engagement or a bottom funnel campaign, then why don't you go for content integration, which is gonna be a 2 month longer campaign, driving better brand recall for you, then followed up by that could be a campaign where ads are talking back to you, and then again a retargeting campaign is following that up. So it's a proper strategized thought that needs to come into picture, which you need, where you need to see that how audio advertising and technology is adding a different flavor at each different stage. So there's no clear answer to it. I cannot say that from audio you need to look at, say, engagement rates. No, probably not. That could be a great parameter, say, for a top funnel or bottom funnel, but maybe not for all brands. So I would say that it totally has to be very much customized and rally back to campaign objective. That is where it all lies in. But one thing that I would want to, ensure that everybody understands is that you must start doing pilots. I've seen that brands who have never tried audio, they take a lot of time. There's a lot of hesitance to even try a small pilot. I'm not saying that deploy heavy monies, 30% of your budget on audio, but just 2%. That's gonna be good enough for a very small pilot campaign. But that must keep on happening.
Yeah.
You may see not a great result coming in from a first campaign, but that's fine. Could be some other creative is working for you, could be some other channel is working for you, or a bigger other inventory source is working for you. But keep on trying. Do not stop this, because you just never know what might unlock for you and when. Like for Pizza Hut, we had been doing so many audio campaigns, and lastly we could understand that okay, something driven by AI is working so well. So similarly, as a brand, you need to understand that it could be a content integration, it could be a podcast series working for you, it could be a regular inventory ad just to drive a lot of brand recall. But keep on trying to do a bit of pilot campaign every time, and then you can decide what's working very well for you.
Okay, yeah, test and learn is the way to go. So we are, I think, almost done with the time. I just want one last input from everybody in terms of future gazing. Very tough in the evolving, changing environment that we live in. But if you have to actually tap into top 2, 3 voice trends or the audio tech trends that you would want to place your bet on, what that would be. So starting with or and then we move to all.
So I think that what we should expect to see in the audio trends are more interactive voice ads. I think it already came up here, and we'll see more and more of that. Generally speaking, we anticipate more and more content creators to join the audio world. And I think that also branded voices, iconic or branded voices pair unique brand. It's something that we're going to see. Brands that will start creating his own unique voice. The best example that I can give is Espresso and George Clooney, of course. It's, everybody knows that when you speak about Nespresso, you think about George Clooney. And I think this is a good trend that we'll start seeing coming up.
Okay, Alex.
Yeah, I'm actually totally on the same page with Or. So it looks like that. So we go to the democratization where more content creators would be able to use the finest technologies. We would see that brands would be more tied to particular voices, and we would just in general see more communicative applications of audio, of synthetic audio in the world.
Okay, Samir.
Yeah, so for me, it will be, I see it in three, as you say, three areas. One is the personalized interactions over voice within the app or in telephony. That's clearly happening. Second is the speech synthesis, as Alex highlighted. And third critical piece is the device integrations, IoT and device integrations. That's where I see a lot of innovation happening in the voice space.
Yeah, interesting IoT. Yes, I feel also. I think there's lots of innovation possible in the IoT space as well moving forward. Dimpy, your last words.
So Gopa, I would say that voice is three trends definitely. So first one is that voice is going to unlock new doors, which is where we have something gonna be a new currency, a new metric, which is around voice interactions beyond click interactions, CTRs, right? Second will be that voice is going to be a very, very important part of omni-channel strategy, and it has already started to be with that. So it's not only going to be video and display, but also audio and voice in it. And third, definitely, which is automation. So even voice, that's gonna drive automation also by itself, and not just gonna get driven on automation. So that's my 3 cents to it.
Great. Thank you. And I think we are pretty much done with today's time. Thank you all. Thank you for your time. It was a very insightful discussion on the emerging trend and on audio tech. I'm kind of enlightened, and hopefully everybody who's tuned in would have also loved the point of view and in terms of how we are able to use voice and audio tech in the future. Uh, Handing it over back to Priya. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, everyone,
Thank
for
you.
joining in. And thank you for such an engaging discussion. And thank you for making time and being with us here today. So that brings us to the end of the inaugural edition of Voice for Bharat Summit 2022. We would like to thank our partners, presenting partner Chingari Audio, brought to you by partner Gupshup, platinum partner Wordoo, gold partners Agra Technologies and Reverie Language Technologies, and knowledge partner PwC. And another thank you goes out to all the attendees who have been with us throughout the day. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe and stay tuned for more of our upcoming events. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye bye. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.